Welcome in. 49ers 38, Cardinals 13. 49ers finished the season 13-4, a three-game improvement over last year when they finished 10-7. Obviously, a lot more breathing room. And the 49ers are headed to the postseason for round 3 against the Seattle Seahawks. Some stuff is too good to script, but this time the 49ers might have a chance to avenge 2013, technically January 2014. Now, I know the stakes were higher that time. Harbaugh, Carroll, NFC Championship game. This time they play the Seahawks in the wild card round, but I mean, it'd still be fun for the 49ers to beat them 3 times. So that's happening on Saturday. We'll briefly touch on the game today, but there wasn't much to learn from the game today. The Cardinals were 4-12. Now they're 4-13. Cliff Kingsbury might be on his way out. We'll see what happens there. But I mean, that team looked like a bunch of dead men walking. They were not a good team. Let's put it that way. And they also were missing a lot of their top personnel. So we know that Arizona had slipped up over the course of the season. Many injuries. J.J. Watt, final career game. I'm sure he didn't want to go out on such a blowout loss, but he did rack up 2 sacks. Good for him. I think he finishes with 120.5 career sacks, came in with 118.5. So that was that for Arizona. 49ers did what we expected them to do. Slight hiccups early in the game, but gosh, next week is so much bigger, right, with the postseason. So you'd expect the energy level to maybe be a little bit off in that week 1 or in that week 18 game, as opposed to the first week of the postseason coming up next time, and that's going to be at 1:35 p.m. on Saturday. It's going to be 49ers Seahawks. The article on this one is up, and one thing that I focused on today in the piece, as you can see with Tashawn Gibson up there on the screen, 49ers finished this season number 1 in turnover margin. I mean, literally, they finished number 1 in turnover margin, and that's special. I mean, let's zoom down here and make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see what the year by year has been under Kyle Shanahan as far as turnover differential. 2017 through 2022, it's been a 6-year journey. Red is bad, blue is good. And turnover differential comes from 2 different sides, right? Offensive giveaways, that's bad, and defensive takeaways, that's good for turnover differential. You add those 2 together, you see where you are, plus or minus, and then you rank yourself against the rest of the teams. So red means below average. Blue is going to be above average. And for every single year up before this one, except for 2019, when the 49ers ranked number 11 in turnover margin, the 49ers have been in the red. They've been below average, including worst in the league in 2018, where they only had an NFL record low 2 interceptions, and number 31 in 2020. That was also a miserable year for the 49ers. This 2021 season for the this 2022 season for the 49ers, though, massive reversal. And with today's effort against Arizona, the 49ers have finished plus 13 in turnover differential, which ranks first in the league. So the 49ers have been the best team in football when it comes to turnover differential, which is extremely correlated to winning or losing. And part of that turnover differential has been the 49ers are number 1 in interceptions. They tied with the Steelers with 20 picks. Minkah Fitzpatrick on the Steelers has 6 interceptions. The man up on your screen, Tashawn Gibson, 5 interceptions. Gibson, that's his career high since 2014 when he had 6 with the Browns. That was when he was a Pro Bowler. Gibson now, he's an older man now. I won't say old man because he's younger than me, but he's 32 years old. And he was frustrated on his couch this August. He was sitting around saying, man, it's my birthday. Nobody's signed me yet. I've never been unsigned on my birthday. He was ready to give it up. He said, retirement probably did cross his mind at that point. But then the 49ers called because they needed somebody to fill in for Jimmy Ward, who had the hamstring injury. And then as it worked out, because Gibson's a professional and he showed up ready, Kyle Shanahan remembered him from 2014 because Kyle was the offensive coordinator in Cleveland that year when Gibson was a Pro Bowler, picking up 6 interceptions. Gibson stepped right in. Funny enough, he had a man who was 10 years younger than him be his mentor. Talanoa Hufanga, 22-year-old, mentored the 32-year-old Tashawn Gibson on the 49ers playbook. Just gives you an idea of how strong that 49ers locker room is. And that mentorship ended up yielding the 49ers 9 interceptions this year. 5 for Gibson, 4 for Hufanga. And then the man that Gibson replaced at the safety position, Jimmy Ward, he picked up 3 picks of his own playing nickelback. Jimmy Ward switched positions to nickelback after he came back from that hamstring injury and then the hand injury, right? He had the club for a while because he only came back for a play or two. And Ward gracefully made the position change to be one of the 49ers players with at least 3 interceptions this year. And that's such a massive deal because they only had 2 as a team in 2018. So this was a monumental uptick in interceptions for the 49ers, a monumental improvement in terms of turnover margin. And turnover margin wins you games in the regular season, but most importantly, it wins you games in the postseason. It's probably even more important in the postseason. So the 49ers right now are 9.5 point favorites over the Seahawks. They are much better than the Seahawks. They blew the crap out of the Seahawks in week 2. That would have been a 30-0 game if not for a blocked field goal that turned into a touchdown the other way for Seattle. So it was 27-7. It would have been, I think, a 4-possession game in week 15 if Nick Bosa had landed on Geno Smith a bit differently and officials didn't nullify Deommodore Lenoir's pick 6. So let's not kid ourselves. The 49ers are much better than the Seahawks. And the only way that Seattle stays close in this game, well, there are 2 ways. But one of the ways is turnovers. But the 49ers are dominating in turnover differential. So you keep this constant and you beat the Seahawks. And the second way is special teams. We know that Seattle is a thorn in everybody's side on special teams. 2 games last year, the 49ers were better than the Seahawks, both of them on offense and defense, but they're worse on special teams and they lost both games. This goes back to the Legion of Boom days. The Seahawks field a very competent and good special teams unit. So the 49ers absolutely must keep their eyes peeled on special teams and to make sure that the Seahawks don't neutralize the advantage that the 49ers have in that phase of the game. But still, the 49ers entering this postseason tournament are built to go to the Super Bowl. I think that they're the best team in the NFC. Eagles fans might disagree with me, but we won't find out who's better, 49ers or Eagles, until much later in this tournament. The Eagles have the 1 seed. The drama that we were talking about of today, well, the Vikings ended up beating the Bears as expected. The Eagles ended up beating the Giants as expected. The 49ers ended up beating the Cardinals as expected, so the seeding stayed the same. Philly 1, 49ers 2, and Minnesota 3. If the 49ers beat Seattle, a game in which they're 9.5 point favorites, and Minnesota also wins in their first round game, which is not guaranteed because Minnesota is probably the worst number 3 seed that we've ever seen. Minnesota becomes the first team in NFL history to win 13 games despite a negative point differential. Well, if Minnesota wins, the fact that the 49ers won today and stayed number 2 ahead of Minnesota number 3 would mean that the divisional round game would be in San Francisco or Santa Clara instead of at Minnesota, which is a big deal, I think, for the 49ers because Minnesota, they've gotten really lucky this year. I think they've gotten extra lucky, though, playing on their home field. So the 49ers won't have to go there. The earliest the 49ers will have to travel is to Philadelphia for the NFC Championship game. But that's only if Philly wins its divisional round game against, we'll see who. But you've got, Dallas and Tampa Bay scoring off on Monday night. So if you see Dallas, say Dallas beats Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's at home, though, so maybe Tampa Bay and Brady win. And say Minnesota wins their game against the New York Giants, then you'll have 49ers, Vikings in that second round, and then you'll have the Philadelphia Eagles against either Tom Brady and the Bucs or the Cowboys, which are 2 teams that can knock off the Eagles and potentially give the 49ers home field advantage throughout this whole thing. But first things first, 49ers need to beat the Seahawks on Saturday. And I guess first, 49ers knock the brakes off of the Cardinals here on Sunday. The 49ers were able to run the ball. What a return for Elijah Mitchell. That was huge for the 49ers. He looks fresh. They're fully geared here entering the postseason. I go back to turnover differential because it's such a big deal. Brock Purdy, again, took care of the football really well. And listen to this. Since Christian McCaffrey joined the 49ers back as a starter in Week 8 against the Rams, that's when this 10-game win streak started for the 49ers. The 49ers have turned the ball over only 5 times. That is certifiably insane. 5 turnovers in 10 games for the 49ers. And Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion, has a lot to do with it because the way that he spaces the field, right? Christian McCaffrey is a magnetic force out there. Defenses are going to gravitate toward him because he's so dependable, so good. And that opens it up for all these other weapons. Deebo Samuel, who was back, but on a pitch count today, he's knocked off the rust before the playoffs. Obviously, I already mentioned Elijah Mitchell. Brandon Ayuk, officially a 1,000-yard season. Congratulations to Brandon Ayuk. George Kittle, 2 touchdowns today. George Kittle finished with 11 touchdown catches, a career high. His previous career high was 6 last season, just behind Travis Kelce with 12. I mean, I could go down the list, and we still have Jawan Jennings and Ray McLeod to talk about, but adding McCaffrey kind of, was that addition of water to the hot tub that makes the hot tub overflow in a good way. Normally I don't like the hot tub overflowing, but in this case, the defense can't keep the hot tub in, right? The hot tub is just overflowing because the 49ers have so many weapons in there. And, it's at the point now where you just can't contain all of them. And the 49ers, by default, have space on the field. Brock Purdy, rookie quarterback, has space on the field. And the 49ers only have 5 giveaways since week 8 when McCaffrey became a fixture of that lineup as a result. So they're generating turnovers and they're preventing giveaways on the offensive end. So generating turnovers on the defensive end, offensive side's doing its job. I mean, if you look at the third phase of the game, the 49ers have the leading special teams tackler in all of football in George Odom. So they are getting it done in all 3 phases. That's how you win 10 straight. They're blowing opponents out. The only remotely close game in these 10 straight wins, right, was the one against the Raiders, which happened a week ago today on New Year's Day in Las Vegas. So it has been sensational for the 49ers, and there's a reason why they're 9.5-point favorites over Seattle. We talk about a couple of 49ers weaknesses, obviously Diamondor Lenore. But Geno Smith and Seattle, we've already seen 2 games against them, right? 49ers Seahawks in 2 games. And they weren't able to take advantage of the fact the 49ers have an inexperienced second cornerback. Charvarius Ward locked up DK Metcalf. Jimmy Ward did a really good job against Tyler Lockett. And there wasn't much of anything really done against Diamondor Lenore back in week 15. So I don't think that the Seattle offense is particularly equipped to take advantage of the most glaring 49ers weakness. 49ers eyes were much better in this game from Talanoa Hufanga, by the way. They cleaned up some of those issues. If we look at weaknesses on the other side of the ball, where are they for the 49ers? The offensive line is playing its best football of the Kyle Shanahan era. That's a top 10 offensive line. That had been the reason the 49ers lost the playoff game, the Super Bowl in 2019, and then the NFC Championship in 2021, because they couldn't block premier interior rushers. And this year, they're a lot better off along that offensive line. They've stayed healthy. They're cohesive. George Kittle talked about it today. Happy birthday to George Kittle's grandmother, Lucky, turned 100 years old on Friday, and she was at Levi's Stadium today, up in the suite, and the entire stadium sang happy birthday to her. What a moment that was today. And she got to see her grandson score 2 touchdowns. It was awesome. I mean, again, Kittle, for the first time in his career, reached double digits in touchdowns, 10 and 11 today for the 49ers. And it was while his grandmother was celebrating her 100th birthday. They flew her out from Iowa to be at the game. How about that at Levi's Stadium for a special moment today? But anyway, the 49ers, so many weapons, rolling at the right time. It evokes memories of 1994. In 1994, which is the last time the 49ers won the Super Bowl, they got their asses kicked by the Philadelphia Eagles, of all teams. It's funny enough. We're talking about the Eagles here. In week 5. I think, it was week 5. This year, it was a little bit later. Week 7, where the 49ers got beaten down by the Kansas City Chiefs. It actually wasn't as bad of a loss as the 94 49ers to the Eagles. 94 49ers to the Eagles. Steve Young got benched. George Seifert said it was for his protection. Steve Young didn't like getting benched. Steve Young started yelling at George Seifert on the sideline. Expletives, all this, all that. It was ugly back in 1994, week 5, right? It actually wasn't quite as ugly here in 2022 in week 7, but the point remains the same. A very good 49ers team got blown out. And I think, what was the score? It was, 44-23 Chiefs back in week 7. Hurt the 49ers' pride for sure. Still remember being in that locker room, Nick Bosa talking about how the 49ers needed to get back to the drawing board and all this and all that. It was gloomy. It was disappointing because they had just traded for Christian McCaffrey. Yet, obviously, that trade didn't pay off in that game. But it would take, another week for Christian McCaffrey to fully integrate himself into the offense and learn the playbook. And then it would take about a half against the Rams for the 49ers to truly get going, especially on defense. The defense still struggled as they were getting back into rhythm from a bunch of injuries. And after that first half of football against the Rams, in which the 49ers did struggle, they were lights out. 4 straight second half shutouts. Dominant defense throughout most of the second half of the season, and the offense got better and better and better, first with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, and then that extended to Brock Purdy at quarterback. And I think the one variable that's been there throughout all of this has been Christian McCaffrey. Because McCaffrey, he is receiving production. He is rushing production. He is pass protection, not because he blocks, but because he's such a perfect outlet for opposing quarterbacks. I mean, he's everything. And this one variable has grown with the 49ers. He's a true superstar. The fact that he didn't make the Pro Bowl is a total joke, but he's grown into rhythm with the 49ers in such a way that we've seen their offensive line hit its stride while he's there. We've seen Kittle hit his stride while McCaffrey's taken attention away from him. We've seen Ayuk hit 1,000 yards receiving, and we've seen Brock Purdy have the best possible entrance possible. That's a lot of possibles, right? That we've seen Brock Purdy have the best possible entrance into the NFL thanks to the offensive arsenal that's been given to him. And don't get me wrong, opponents are going to adjust to Brock Purdy. I think they already are. Today, there were a little bit more struggles early in the game than we had seen before, and that wasn't a very good Cardinals defense. Not good at all. Shouldn't even say very good. But, I mean, Purdy's first few steps, he's explosive. He juts out of that pocket. I mean, he could really move, right? And I think defenses are going to take better rushing angles. They're not going to let him escape the way that he's escaping. The Seahawks will probably make a couple adjustments moving forward here on Saturday when they play the 49ers. But so far, Purdy's shown the ability to counter adjust. And here's the thing. You don't put up 30 plus in 5 out of 6 games or 35 plus in 4 out of 5 starts if you don't know how to counter adjust in the NFL. NFL defenses are going to get on you a little bit quicker than 5 games, but that's exactly what Purdy has done. In 4 of his 5 starts, the 49ers have laid 35 plus on opposing teams. Now, the one game where they didn't, where they scored only 21, could have been more, but they kneeled on the ball at the end, was against Seattle. But Purdy also got an injection for his ribs in that game, right before that game. He wasn't healthy for that game, and he still beat the Seahawks. So Brock Purdy has proven capable of running the 49ers offense the way that the 49ers need him to run the offense. He's been really, really impressive. And to me, I don't see a reason for this not to continue into the playoffs just because the 49ers have built this so sustainably with depth, right? They've layered the talent at the skill positions. They've made sure that the offensive line is playing its best football of the Shanahan era. Even without Aaron Banks at left guard, he should be back next week. Daniel Brunskill helped them not skip a beat today. The infrastructure is there for Brock Purdy to succeed moving into the playoffs. I also think the infrastructure is there for the defense to succeed. They had an ugly play today on the trick play to open the game against Arizona. Of course, Deommodore Lenoir lost at the catch point. That's a weakness that's going to be targeted by teams moving into the postseason. But you neutralize weaknesses on the back end if everybody else is doing their job. And if the pass rush can fuel the coverage. I've talked a lot about the fact that the 49ers pass rush isn't quite as good this year as it was in 2019. That's a difference for sure. They blew Minnesota and Green Bay out of the water based, almost solely on the pass rush the last time that they had home field advantage in the playoffs in January of 2020. D Ford roaring around the edge, D Ford lining up inside, all kinds of stunts and games. I mean, it was crazy, right? Nick Bosa, obviously, they're chanting his name like he was Maximus from Gladiator when he got the wind knocked out of him in that divisional round against the Vikings. I mean, that was rousing stuff from the 49ers. They aren't quite as good because the bookend to Bosa isn't D Ford this year, right? They don't have DeForest Buckner anymore, right? They don't have DJ Jones anymore. So that line, while it's good, is going to need a little bit more from its bookends to Nick Bosa to maybe not replicate the massive impact that it had back in that 2019 playoff run, but to ease the burden off of the secondary. And I saw a couple really promising signs in that regard today and then in previous weeks. Jordan Willis is playing the best football of his life. I mean, he's big and he's fast, and he had a strip sack today. That was awesome. Sansom Ebicom had his first sack in quite a bit today, and the 49ers are going to rely on him big time moving forward into the postseason. He's going to have to be that bookend. And then Drake Jackson, he had a really good game against the Raiders, right? He had the interception. He gets his arms up there. He's one of the league leaders in balls knocked away. Today, he didn't play not because of a performance issue, but because the 49ers knew they were playing a terrible team on its fourth-string quarterback that would probably be running the ball a lot. So they had extra defensive tackles up, and they made Jackson inactive. But against pass-heavy teams, and the Seahawks have been passing a lot this year with Geno Smith, who actually just set the franchise record for completions today. He broke Russell Wilson's record, which is wild here in year one. That just shows you how often the Seahawks, though, are passing. They're letting Geno cook. They might not let Russ cook, but they're letting Geno cook. The 49ers are going to go a bunch of edge rushers. They're going to have Drake Jackson up for this game. 49ers should also have Dre Greenlaw back. That's expected. He's doing a lot better. He was a huge factor in 49ers Seahawks week 15 up in Seattle, just rampaging around the field. He delivered that big hit on Travis Homer that turned into the fumble that Charvarius Ward returned quite a ways. So that's all big stuff. The 49ers are, in a position where they want to be at full strength defensively because the Seahawks do have some explosiveness. But at the end of the day, the 49ers absolutely have the arsenal that has already proven that they could shut this Seattle team down. And I think the big worry in this game is special teams, is absolutely special teams. That's the one potential neutralizer for Seattle. Now, it is going to be wet this weekend. It's going to be wet all week. I think it's probably raining outside right now as I speak. So the 49ers also have to look at weather as a potential neutralizer. The favorite in a game normally likes good, clear weather because funky stuff happens if it gets too wet and slippery. But that being said, the 49ers are the most physical team in football. So wet weather probably does end up favoring them in a way, right? Because Seattle's aired the ball out a lot this year. Their best games have come when Geno Smith has been on fire passing the football. I don't think today against the Rams was one of their best games. They won 19-16. But you look at the 49ers and what they've done to teams physically this year. Every single team that has played the 49ers in this 2022 season has lost in the following week, if it's played a game in the following week. The Chiefs, after playing the 49ers, won, but it was 2 weeks later after a bye. So it is of absolute importance to underscore the 49ers are zagging while the rest of the league is zigging. The physical brand of football, run first, yak attack, be heavy out in the field, be heavy and muscular. Don't try to, just elude everybody. But really, even Christian McCaffrey is bowling over people. That style of football leaves bruises. And then teams that play the 49ers don't do very well the week after. Well, obviously, the Seahawks didn't have to play the 49ers last week or this week. They played the Rams. But in a rain game, in a playoff game that's expected to be physical, we look at every measurement that we can that relates to how a team can pound its opposition, right? How a team can be the more muscular team, how a team can, outwork them up front. And every single thing about how the 49ers play indicates that they're better than the Seahawks at that. Down to this. Listen to this. The two worst defenses against yards after the catch, giving up the most yards after the catch per reception in football, are the worst, number 32, the Arizona Cardinals. The second worst in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks, just barely better than the Cardinals. So the two worst yak defenses in the NFL are the Seahawks and the Cardinals. And the 49ers have already beaten the Seahawks and the Cardinals twice each, and they have mercilessly roasted them with yards after the catch both times. There's no reason to expect that should not happen again against the Seahawks in a week. So the 49ers are just built tougher than the Seahawks. That's already been showcased twice, and it should probably be showcased in the postseason again. By the way, for the first time since the 1990s, the 49ers have finished 6-0 against their division, against the NFC West. They beat the Seahawks twice, they beat the Rams twice, and they beat the Arizona Cardinals twice. Over 1,000 people on. Nice. Hung in here long enough to get over 1,000 at 11 p.m. on a Sunday night. So welcome everybody into the show. I can go get some good In-N-Out burger in a little bit. Excited for that. Do I wade into the comment section? Maybe, maybe not. You know what I do, though? I'm going to post this into the comment section. 49ers secure that turnover differential crown. It is the big one. Check it out. Turnover differential crown article. Why don't you subscribe to The Athletic? I think we got a sale going on right now. It is now time to do this entering the playoffs because it's about to get really fun. Postseason coverage, 49ers football. They are, I have to take a look at the odds after I'm done with this, but it's either them or the Eagles as the favorites to win the NFC. I'm sure the odds are similar for both teams. It is going to be a whole lot of fun tracking the 49ers going through this postseason race. If you remember what 2019 was like, they just walloped everybody. Though this time they're going to have to go through an extra game. But maybe that's going to make people happy. They don't have to be antsy for 1 week waiting to see who the 49ers are going to play. They get a rematch with the Seahawks. So check out the article. It is in the description and it's in the comment section. And make sure that you subscribe to The Athletic. This is the banner from the start of the season. Welcome to the 2022 49ers coverage. Got the wrong year. It's 2023 now. So Follow me on Twitter, and I'll have to change that text title to Welcome to 2023 49ers coverage. You know, I had a couple keys to this game, and I don't even think I'm going to revisit them because right here, key 1. Yeah, let's revisit it. This is funny. Just play Arizona. They're not good. Yeah, that key ended up being pretty spot on. Key 2, don't let J.J. Watt take over his final game. Hey, J.J. Watt did some good stuff. 2 sacks, good for him. Final career game finishes with about 120 career sacks. Looks like he still has a lot left in the tank if he decides not to retire, if he decides to pull a Brady and come back. But at the end of the day, J.J. Watt and 2 sacks wasn't enough to take over the game. And key 3, don't do too much scoreboard watching. I don't think the 49ers did. Wasn't worth it, right? The Giants weren't even trying to win with Davis Webb, their practice squatter at quarterback. So, you know, that went down as it did. I think the Giants ended up losing by 6. Came down to an onside kick at the end. Slight glimpse of hope that the 49ers might be able to pull out that number 1 seed against Philly, but it obviously did not happen. So we move on to the postseason with Brandon Ayuk. He's got his 1,000-yard season. He needed 44 yards. He got more than that. 49ers and Seahawks coming up on Saturday. I'll wait in. We'll get a couple questions in here. With over 1,000 viewers, though, this is probably going to go really, really fast. So maybe just a couple, then we'll get going. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't his career best form. People are talking about that. I see in the comment section. It's a testament to this team. Everybody was doing their best, right, this year. Yeah, you've had career years from a lot of guys. George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. I think even in Christian McCaffrey, he might not have gone 1,000 like he did with Carolina, but I don't think we've ever seen Christian McCaffrey play better in the NFL. Best performance from the 49ers offensive line. Career year from Nick Bosa. Fred Warner's never been better in coverage. Career year for Dre Greenlaw. Charvarius Ward, I think this is the best he's ever looked on tape. He was good with Kansas City. This is the best he's been. Talanoa Hufanga, first-time Pro Bowler. Across the board, everybody's had a career year for the 49ers. Speaks to a healthy locker room. It speaks to good roster construction. I mean, the 49ers front office should be taking a bow right now, but it can't be too long of a bow because the playoffs are about to start. And now they have to prove that they can extend this into the postseason. Yeah, Brock Purdy is cheap as far as cap space goes. That's true. I'm just looking through some of these questions. I mean, that's the benefit of having – they've got 2 quarterbacks under contract next year, Purdy and Trey Lance, both at a very affordable cost. All right, any more questions? Come on, let's get good questions. I'm not going to just comment on people's thoughts. I'm going to answer questions if I can. We'll put this up here, though. You could smash that like button while you're around. The better questions you ask, the more I'll stay here. Otherwise, if you don't ask good questions, I'm going to go get my order In-N-Out burger. Post your questions, Mike says. Listen to him. You guys are unbelievable. There's 1,081 of you on here, and you don't ask questions. All right, here's one. Secondary giving up TDs to Seattle, Vegas, early TDs to Seattle, Vegas, and the Cardinals is concerning. I mean, yeah, any points that you give up, you don't want to give them up, but it's what you do on the aggregate, right? And on the aggregate, the 49ers gave up 13 points today. The Raiders game was troubling if it repeated itself, but even great defenses have had terrible games. So to me, if this continues into the playoffs, if the 49ers look terribly undisciplined on the back end throughout entire games, not just one play, yeah, it's a problem. But the aggregate tells us it's not a problem. They finished the season as the number 1 defense in the NFL. We can't get too upset about that, right? If you're a 49ers fan and you see the defense as the number 1 unit in the NFL after all is said and done, well, just sit back and enjoy it, right? Just sit back and enjoy it, and it'll be good. Will the 49ers trade Trey Lance? No, I don't think so. They value quarterback depth way too much. What's the status of Greenlaw? Back strain. He's going to be back next week in all likelihood. Jimmy Garoppolo probably gone, but we never know. Somebody's asking about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not under contract for next year. One of the big benefits the 49ers are dealing with is the cost-effective quarterback room that they have right now. How close is Brock Purdy to his ceiling? That's a good question. Oops. If for Brock Purdy, I mean, we'll see. It's an adjustment counter adjustment game with Brock Purdy. I do like his speed, so I think that ceiling could be pretty high. If for some reason Jimmy G needed to play at any point in the playoffs, how confident are you that he can win? Well, I'm not confident any quarterback can win. I think a team wins and loses games. I'm confident in the 49ers roster, and then that confidence will be buoyed or rescinded based on Jimmy Garoppolo's percentage of health. And I don't know where that is exactly right now. I know he's putting some weight on the foot, but right now it's all about Brock Purdy. This is interesting. Thoughts on Steve Young's Purdy Mahomes comparison. You can see it a little bit with, how quickly Brock Purdy can get out of the pocket, and then he has a good feel when he's moving around on the run. Now, Mahomes was doing crazy stuff like left-handed throws, and, Mahomes was certifiably insane, his first year. So we'll see if Purdy can develop into that. But I don't think his skill set is as far off from Mahomes as people think it might be, because that quickness is one of Mahomes' keys. Now, Mahomes has just got a cannon of an arm that he can unleash crazy arm angle throws from. I don't think Purdy has that kind of arm, but Steve was talking more about the nuances of the game and feeling the rush and getting rid of the ball with an understanding of where your targets are. So that was good stuff. Do you think Debo will be more of a presence in the playoffs? It feels like he hasn't done as much as he can even prior to his injury. Well, there have been more players to spread the wealth with, but Debo Samuel was doing some really awesome stuff right before he got hurt. He was trucking people. I think he got hurt in the Tampa Bay game, right? Yeah. So I think Debo Samuel is absolutely ready to be a big time contributor. The thing is that he was the only big time contributor last year, so he's carrying a lot of that weight. This year, he doesn't have to carry as much weight. So, of course, he's probably going to do a little bit less on the stat sheet. Do the 49ers have anybody coming off the injury list for the playoffs? I believe Greenlaw will be coming off. Elijah Mitchell already came off today. Debo came off today. So they should be getting those guys back, including Aaron Banks at left guard. Does Seattle being a division rival make anybody nervous? No, I don't think so. If you've beaten them badly twice, you can beat them badly 3 times. Is McGlinchey on his A game? Yeah, McGlinchey is playing really, really well. What are my thoughts on Diamador Lenore? Diamador Lenore, I mean, he's a young corner. He's getting better with experience. He got better over the course of this football game. I thought that the tackle that he made late on that screen pass should give him some confidence entering the playoffs. He didn't look good at the point of catch on the first trick play, which racked up a ton of yards for the Arizona Cardinals, right? And a touchdown to AJ Green. So, I mean, Diamador, they say you're only as good as your weakest cornerback, unless you got a pass rush and a front seven and a secondary that could kind of mask that weakness. And, Lenore's a lot better than what the 49ers had entering the 2019 playoffs. Remember, Kello Witherspoon, he was benched in favor of Emmanuel Mosley back in those playoffs. So I think that Lenore is serviceable enough for the 49ers to go to battle with him. Every team has its flaws. Every team has players that are slightly weaker. Nobody is running a total all-pro unit out there, but the 49ers might be the closest to that. So that's my answer to that question. Why isn't Thomas playing? Because Lenore is above him on the depth chart. All right, guys. What are we? Are we gone for 33 minutes here? Yeah, 33 minutes on the show. So maybe take a couple more, but I'm getting hungry. It's getting a little bit later, too. We're going to have a good week talking all this stuff. Well, Ray gets some carries with Debo back. Yeah. I think you could still use Ray McLeod as a counter kind of punch weapon. Thoughts on Womack's development? He's good on special teams, and that's where you want your rookies to be earning some of their playing time. You just want me to order my food DoorDash, huh? Nah. No, they're not going to call Sherman. Sherman's doing TV. Maybe not in the playoffs anymore. Banks is going to come back. Don't worry about that. All right, guys. Time for me to end this show. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Go ahead and check out that article. It's up there on The Athletic. Subscribe to The Athletic. I'm hungry. I want to eat before it gets too late. And we're going to talk to you a whole heck of a lot over the course of this week. Thank you to everybody, and we will talk to you all soon. 49ers are headed to the playoffs. They play the Seahawks on Saturday. Thanks again. Take care. And like and sub. Take care now. Waiting for it to